Welcome back, everyone, to Mighty Habits. I'm Steven, and as always, I'm super excited to be your guide to habits that stick.
And I'm Mary here to help connect those habits to the bigger picture.
And today we're diving deep into something we all experience, but may not always fully understand.
Human emotion.
Yeah, human emotion. We're talking about Brené Brown's book, Atlas of the Heart.
It's not just another self-help book, though,
Right.
Brené Brown really digs deep here, offering a whole new vocabulary to understand the nuances of our emotions.
It's funny how we use these basic words, happy, sad, or angry
Right.
as these catch-all terms, but there's so much more going on beneath the surface, right?
Absolutely. And, think of it this way. If you only had a few crayons to color with, you could get the basic idea across.
Yeah.
But imagine the richness and depth you could achieve with a full box of 128 colors.
Wow.
That's what this book does for our emotional understanding.
I love that analogy. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like she's giving us this high definition lens to examine our inner world. And it's not just about labeling those feelings though, is it?
No, it's about understanding what those feelings tell us about ourselves
Right.
and how to use that knowledge to connect with others more authentically.
So one of the things that stood out to me when I was reading Atlas of the Heart was how she really differentiates between emotions that we tend to kind of clump together.
Yeah.
For example, she distinguishes between guilt, which is focused on a specific action,
Right.
and shame, which is this much deeper feeling of inadequacy that attacks our core sense of self.
That's a really important distinction, and it makes you realize you might have mislabeled some of your own feelings in the past,
Yeah.
thinking you're experiencing guilt when it was actually shame.
Yeah, exactly. I felt that.
And no wonder it felt so heavy, right?
Huge difference.
That's precisely the kind of aha moment this book can spark. By giving us more precise language, we can better understand the root of our feelings and start addressing them more effectively.
And it makes you think about how much more effective can we be in our communication and in our relationships
Absolutely.
if we can actually articulate what we're feeling to other people.
When we can clearly articulate what we're feeling, we're less likely to misinterpret others' emotions or project our own baggage onto them.
Yeah.
It's like learning to speak a new language
It is.
of empathy and understanding.
Wow, this is already making me rethink how I approach my own, emotional landscape
Yeah.
and my interactions with others. And I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface here.
We are, and it's not just for therapists or self-help junkies. Atlas of the Heart is truly a gift for anyone who wants to live a richer, more meaningful life through genuine connection with themselves and others.
I love that. And to our listeners, if you're intrigued by this deep dive into Atlas of the Heart, stay tuned because we are going to be back with part 2, where we will explore some of the surprising insights and practical takeaways from Brené Brown's work.
And don't forget to follow or subscribe to Mighty Habits for more deep dives into fascinating topics that will help you level up your life. We're here to help you unlock your full potential, one mighty habit at a time.
That's great stuff. And we will be back after a quick break.
So, one of the most fascinating aspects of Atlas of the Heart for me was how it delves into the often overlooked spectrum of joy. We tend to think of joy as, this single emotion,
Right.
but Brené Brown breaks it down into multiple shades.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
We always say, I'm happy, but there's so much more there.
Exactly. She talks about the difference between, say, pure joy, which
Right.
is that fleeting feeling of exhilaration,
Okay.
and contentment,
Uh-huh.
which is a deeper sense of peace and satisfaction.
So winning the lottery might bring a burst of pure joy.
Yes.
But contentment might come from just a quiet evening at home with loved ones.
Precisely. And then there's gratitude, which is a
Yeah.
feeling of appreciation for what we have, and it can actually boost our overall well-being.
So by understanding these different flavors of joy,
Mhm.
we can actually cultivate a richer and more fulfilling emotional life.
Absolutely. And it also helps us connect with others on a deeper level, Right.
Imagine being able to articulate those subtle shades of joy to your partner or friend.
Yeah.
I'm feeling so grateful for our friendship, or that movie filled me with such pure joy.
Yeah, instead of just saying, I'm happy,
Exactly. It opens up a whole new dimension of communication.
you're sharing a deeper part of yourself and inviting the other person to do the same.
Exactly. And speaking of sharing, one concept that really resonated with me was the idea of placemat vulnerability.
Placemat vulnerability.
Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of that. What is that?
It's a metaphor Brown uses to describe the appropriate level of vulnerability for different relationships.
Okay.
Imagine a placemat.
Okay.
The things closest to the center are the things we're most vulnerable about, and share only with those closest to us as you move outward. The topics become less personal and appropriate to share with a wider circle.
Well, that's a brilliant way to think about it.
Yeah,
It makes perfect sense because you wouldn't, share your deepest fears and insecurities with just a casual acquaintance.
but you might with your best friend or partner.
Right, and recognizing these boundaries is crucial for building healthy relationships.
Yeah.
We need to understand that not everyone deserves access to our most vulnerable selves.
That's such an important point, especially in a world where we're constantly being told, be open, be authentic, all the time.
Absolutely. Authenticity is important, but so is discernment.
Right.
We need to choose who we share our deeper selves with wisely.
This is giving me so much food for thought. It's like, understanding these nuances of emotion can actually lead to more authentic connections and stronger relationships.
And that's just the beginning. Brené Brown dives into so many more fascinating concepts in Atlas of the Heart. It's really a treasure trove of insights about the human experience.
I'm hooked. This is definitely a book I need to add to my reading list. I
Yeah.
encourage our listeners to do the same.
Yeah.
It's like a user's manual for the heart,
Yeah.
helping us navigate the complexities of emotions and connection.
Well said. And for those who are curious to learn more, we'll be back for part 3 of our deep dive into Atlas of the Heart, where we'll explore some practical tips for applying these concepts to our everyday lives.
I can't wait. We'll be right back. All right, we are back for the final part of our deep dive into Atlas of the Heart.
It's all well and good to understand all these different nuances of emotion, but if we don't use that knowledge to actually create positive change, then what's the point?
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about practical application.
Okay.
How can we actually use this expanded emotional vocabulary, to navigate these tricky situations that inevitably arise in relationships?
Well, one of the most powerful tools Brené Brown gives us is the ability to communicate our needs more effectively.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, "You're making me angry," which puts the blame on the other person, we can say, "When you do X, it makes me feel Y and I need Z."
That's huge. Just that little shift.
Yeah.
Like you're taking ownership of your own feelings and then you're clearly articulating, what you need from the other person.
Right, and it opens the door for a more constructive conversation. The other person might not even be aware of the impact their actions are having.
Yeah.
So by naming it and expressing our need, we give them an opportunity to understand and respond accordingly.
I can see how that would prevent a lot of unnecessary conflict and resentment.
Absolutely.
It's like giving the other person a roadmap instead of expecting them to read our minds.
Exactly. And another valuable tool is learning to set boundaries. Brown emphasizes the importance of recognizing what we're willing to tolerate and what we're not.
That can be tough, though, especially,
Yeah.
I think, for people pleasers.
Yeah.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of saying yes to everything
Yeah.
and then feeling resentful later on down the road.
It's definitely a skill that takes practice, but by understanding our own needs and limits, we can start saying no with more confidence and create healthier relationships.
And I imagine that goes hand in hand with the concept of placemat vulnerability
Absolutely.
that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's about choosing who we share our deeper selves with and setting those boundaries to protect our emotional well-being. Not everyone needs to know everything about us.
Right. It's like being the curator of our own emotional museum,
Yes.
carefully selecting which pieces you choose to display to the world.
I love that analogy. It really captures the essence of taking ownership of our emotions and choosing to share them in a way that feels safe and authentic.
This whole deep dive has been such an eye-opener.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new set of tools to navigate the complexities of human connection.
Me too. Atlas of the Heart is truly a gift. It's like a roadmap
Right?
to deeper understanding not only of ourselves, but the people around us.
I have a feeling this is just the beginning of our journey with this book.
It is.
I can see myself revisiting it again and again as I continue to grow and evolve.
It's a book that stays with you. And the beauty of it is that it's not just about personal growth. It's about creating a more compassionate and connected world.
So to our listeners, if you're ready to kind of explore the uncharted territories of your own heart and build stronger, more meaningful relationships, I highly recommend, diving into Atlas of the Heart.
And don't forget to subscribe to Mighty Habits for more deep dives into fascinating topics that will help you unlock your full potential. We're here to support you on your journey to creating a life you love, one mighty habit at a time.
Thanks for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep those mighty habits strong.